ready.
Thank you for joining us for part 2 of our interview with Dick McVay. We'll pick up where we left off in part 1 and talk about the origin and evolution of the Don McVay Senior Memorial Hunt, special memories from the field, the My Dog Has Skills sporting dog event game, and a whole lot more. My first beagle I actually got from Coy and Jeff. And this is just a little story, a real quick one. But I had just started in this beagling thing. I didn't know what in the world I was doing. And actually went to it was one of the first year. It was either the first year or second year I had a beagle. And I was really enjoying the hunts and decided, well, why not go to this thing up north that they call the McVay hunt. I really don't know what that's about, but Jeff and some of the folks from down here were making the trek, and I thought, well, I'll go too. And I went up there, and I remember it was a Thursday evening hunt. I believe they brought in all these former champions or something, and you could go out and hunt with them. They broke them into cast that particular year, and I remember tying my dog out and patting him on the head, and we went out and hunted, and I hunted with some world champion dogs. I mean, I thought I was just big time, you know, and I get back, and my dog's gone. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. Somebody has stolen my dog. I've never had this happen before, and I was spun up about it, trying to stay calm, and I went to almost like a front desk area, you know, kind of the happening place on the farm, and there was a lady sitting there, and I was like, ma'am, somebody didn't happen to find a dog that got loose, did they? And she said, well, was he a big blanket back male? And I said, yeah, and she goes, he's just right there behind you. He's a friendly rascal. He just came up here earlier, and I just tied him right there. And it was your mom. And that was the McVay hunt. And I wanted to ask you about that, too. How did that get started? It just happened again, at the taping of this. I think the McVay hunt was maybe a week or two back. That's been a big-time hunt. I've never seen as many prizes given away in my life as I had at something like that. The hunting was very good. One of the best run hunts I've ever been to. But I just had such a good time. I can understand why people put that one on their calendar to do every year. But could you share a little bit about maybe how that got started and from in the beginning, kind of how it got started to what it is today?
Well, my father passed away,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, and
Mm-hmm.
I remember I was up in the UP hunting with Jason, his father, hunting snowshoe hares. See my dad, and he had fluid build up on him. He's like, no, go up there, and I'll get this off of me, and I'll be back. I'm like, I was kind of doubting whether I would, so we went, and we hunted a snowshoe hare. We were going to stay a few more days. I had a bad feeling. Wanted to come home, and when I came home, I got the call my dad had passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And I didn't make it there in time. It kind of ate at me a long time. I didn't hunt. I would never gun hunt anything for a couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
Some boys out of North Carolina come up in one winter and got me into deer hunting again, but just barely. But I stepped out of it. But I said, you know what, I want to do something. And my dad chased trying to win that world show for so many years with the coonhounds I showed with Dad, Danny, and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Dropped away, of course, like you say, to play music. And then got back into it with Donnie with duct tape, my little duct tape story. Great dog. it was fun. But anyway, we just, I just told myself, I want to try to find a dog to win this world show for my dad. Now that he's passed away, and I started, like 30-06, I just get something in my head. I got to go figure it out. I don't care what I got to do. I just got to go figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania, of all places. And, sometimes I just tell Jesus to take the wheel. I just pray and say, just take the wheel. I don't know what I want to do. I put my heart in the right place. Just take me to the next journey. And he did. And I ended up in Beaver Falls, Pennsylvania. I took my wife and my daughter over. We met a guy that had a little dog, and we bought the dog.
Mm-hmm.
We brought it back. We trained her in the field because in UKC you had to run a rabbit to be able to show. You just couldn't show in the world without winning a cast.
That's right.
So, of course, old Scott, the guy, he started her up, and she's like, it's a nice little dog. She was more of a performance pack type of dog, but super good hunting little dog and beautiful. So I went into Holmesville, and I remember that year was a tough year because Dale Pruney was showing some real powerhouses. I mean, his kennel and the Vandergriffs and that whole group of phenomenal looking Clyde Hanning, just phenomenal looking dogs. And we met up at Holmesville and almost missed the show because I was guiding a cast, but they held the show up for me because I was guiding a cast. I got back, I think it was with Donnie Ann on a cast, and got back there and I showed her, and we were registered dogs, so we won everything from the registered class clear up through. I just kept showing and showing and showing, and we won the world show for my dad.
Oh my goodness!
So it was a moment for all of us that he chased so many years, and I come back to my brothers. My brother's like, hey, we want to breed our dog to her, and we did that in Dad's memory, and we got Miss Ohio, which she done a crazy bunch of stuff with my brothers, and my daughter won scholarships with her. So that was when I decided it's like, I want to hold a memorial hunt. I got my brother for Dad. And they're like, yeah, well, we'll help you. It's whatever you need. I'm like, well, I need you guys to, I got this idea for a raffle. Like nobody's ever seen. And they were like, oh, no, heck no. We're not going out begging people for stuff for Dad's memorial hunt. You go do the raffle, we'll run the hunt. I'm thinking, okay, here we go. So it was easy because when I was at my dad's calling hours, if you could have been there, my knees were so sore for standing for 10 hours. People just coming through to see him and hearing these stories and how many people's lives he touched. He touched so many people's lives because there was people maybe short of a few bucks for gas to get to work that week, or a tire they needed because they had an accident or something, and needed a little credit to get through till the end of payday.
Sure.
And if you know Coy Stacy, you can kind of see how my dad was similar to that way. Coy would help anybody out. You know what I mean? Get them through. You know what I mean? He'd be there for them. And that was something that I kind of looked at them two guys as being very similar in a lot of ways. But there were so many people showed up my dad. So I thought the easiest thing to do is go to these people that has businesses that was at the funeral and ask them if they'd support it. And they all did. They all did. I started gathering up stuff, and I had all kinds of stuff. And I remember my brothers coming in, and they're holding the hunt, and they're looking, it's like, look at all this stuff Dick's got. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So, it's a little bit of everything. Anything was appreciated. We had this long raffle, and I remember they were saying, oh, my God, this raffle takes a long time. It's like, you ain't going to believe this stuff. So next year, the following year, we started making the competition. The club come in and said, whoever gets the most donations, gets a little bit of $100, I think, or something.
Cool.
And then we started getting the Thornsleys and Max Thornsley and his family. And I remember a gentleman, a couple of gentlemen, I'm trying to remember names off the top of my head, all the people, Todd Quarters, just so many people jumped in and started helping me with the raffle. My brothers, my daughter, my in-laws, and we started building it up there. The third year, it started getting so overwhelming that I was just, with my work, was changing. I was getting into doing non-destructive testing, and it was a lot of theory and math, and, I need to really focus on my career. And my brother Dave's like, we'll take it from here. And I'm like, here, you got the money now. You know what I mean? You've got, the club's made money. We've got money to go out, and it's like, take it to the moon. And I remember telling a guy that was with UKC, Todd Morgan was his name. I told him, I said, I want to tell you something about my brother. If I could get my brother Dave into this, with getting my dad to convince him, my brother Donnie, which was a big, big part to get Dave over here. And he'd be like the LeBron James of the bigger world. I remember Todd Morgan looking at me and saying, just laughing. I'm like, no, you don't understand my brother. Me and him's 22 months apart. We're competitive as all get out, And he is a hard-working man. I mean, a hard-working man. and he's got a great personality with the public. Me, I'm the drummer in the family. I like to be behind the cymbals. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But Dave's a lead singer. You know, we all have our gifts, and he's got a great wife in Shelley. You know, everything was working out for Dave to take it over and take it to the moon. And as you can see, he did. With Donnie's help, my mom's help and support, a lot of people don't understand my mom and how many hours she puts together to take care of the kids. Make sure she gives these little, you know, show baskets out for the kids and little bags of candy and stuff. You know, I'm an inspector, but I have nothing on my mom picking out candy for these kids. You thought that it was like the last week they're ever going to live. You know, I mean, I've seen her take candy and open it up in the store, and I'm thinking we're going to get arrested and taste it to make sure it's good, you know. And she takes a lot of heart into it. And she always paid for it, of course. But, you know, my mom, with everything in that club, and then with the club members, it just, you know, as you can see today, this past when we had over 509 dogs show up to compete, I think it was. Don't quote me on that. I think that number's pretty close. But, and we give a Polaris Ranger away this year. For $1 ticket, you could win a brand new Polaris Ranger. And that's just the power of what Dave could do and what he's good at. And he represents Purina and a lot of good things there. I'm glad he come over to it. When I tried to convince Dave, I was helping build a deck on the back of a neighbor's house that he asked me to come up and do. And my dog was with Dan Whoop and Dave Hummel at the highest state championship. It was a Red Man. And I get the call that Red Man won the highest state championship.
Wow.
And I wasn't even there. And my brother's like, look what he won. I'm like, you really need to get into this. I don't want nothing to get into this.
Mm-hmm.
But when my brother Donnie and my dad got Dave a little dog called Tess, and they had Bo and him and Jay, I still carry pictures of them every day with me, of two dogs that they had, and they got into it. I just could see the future and what was going to happen. And to go at the 20th memorial, and so many people said, you know, club members is like, this raffle's what sustained this club through the hardest of times. And it's just be creative. Starting clubs is all about being creative, coming up with ideals, thinking outside the box, and keeping an open mind.
Right.
You know, don't give up. You know, one person can do any task there is. It just takes longer. You know, it just takes longer to do it, you know?
Well, let me ask you another question. That hunt has been so successful. You mentioned 500-plus hounds this past year alone. With that many hounds coming through over a couple of... Did you say it's been going on for how many years? 20?
20. Last year when I flew in, I flew in and they were, you know, I was watching them like, you know, we still beat the record before. The year before, we kind of gradually grew. And, you know, I had some club members like, hey, we got more members without dogs than we do with dogs, and that type of stuff. And it's like, you know, what are we going to do? You know, it's like, you know, I know Trennis Weaver come up to me and said, you know, we need you to figure out something different here, you know. And I'm like, what you know, you asked me to throw a Hail Mary football, a touchdown pass. You know, I'm trying to win the Super Bowl and throw a Hail Mary football pass without a football. You can't make, people ain't got dogs. Or they're older, they can't run dogs. What are we doing? He's like, we need something. You know, we need to create something again. And I'm thinking, we'll think about it. You know what I mean? I was like, I don't know what to do. I mean, you can't make people buy dogs, and you know, dog food prices are high and all that's crazy. So a couple months later, I come up with something, but.
Well, hold that thought, because I want to come back to that, because I know there's going to be a good story on that. But out of 20 years worth of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hounds being hunted in this thing, what's a favorite memory of yours? You know, or two. Was there anything that stood out that when you look back over all these years, you're like, that was really special, or that was a heck of a performance by this hound, or does anything jump out at you?
Yeah, it was with Blitz. You know, my mom would never let, you know, none of us boys could ever win the memorial. We wasn't allowed. Okay, what going to happen? And I remember running Blitz in a cast. Every cast. We pretty much dropped every dog that was running and ended up in the finals and ended up finishing the final cast by myself.
Mm-hmm.
He struck a rabbit. I think it was up against Dale, one of Dale's Fine Hounds, which was a super good dog. It was a hot day. He actually backed the hunt up a little bit because it was just too hot. But like I say, Blitz wasn't from this planet. You know what I mean? He was from someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a 1 in a billion you ever get your hands on. And I remember winning the first round and winning the second round, winning the third round, and then we got into the finals. And then the most memorable time for me was to watch a dog, hunt every time I turned him loose like it was the last time he was ever going to hunt in his lifetime.
Oh,
and he put on a show of Mike Ridenhour, the American Beagler.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, he looked at me and my brother Donnie's on the hill, and he looked at us, and he's like, well, I got you two here. I want to know what's the difference, why you guys don't breed dogs together and stuff. And
mm-hmm.
and stuff. And it was just like, I remember my brother Donnie looking at him and saying, well, I like a dog. I can make a pretty dog run a rabbit, but I can't make an ugly dog pretty. And I'm like, I feel like I got a nice neck of a heart. I was like, okay, well, he's not Blitz wasn't Fabio by no means, but he had the heart of a lion, man. I'm telling you, he was lethargic when you let him on the lead. He's like an old red-bone coonhound. He just laid back, lay on the seat. But when you snapped him off of that leash, he hunted for a rabbit harder than he did running one. I mean, it was the most amazing thing I ever seen. And I remember I looked at Mike, and there was Jason Mercer, and there was some other people, spectators sitting there watching, and they're like, where's he at? Pull his cell phone out, because I had a tracker, because I could keep track. I was worried about losing him. And I knew he'd never be no more than 200 yards, but I knew how valuable he was to me. Because at this time, I'm having people offer me crazy money for this dog. He's like, where's he at? Where's he at? He's got to tell us a story. And I told Mike, I said, Mark, I told him, I said, well, I like a dog that runs with the intent to catch,
Yeah.
And I no more got that out of my mouth. And Blitz by himself, because the other dog decided to scratch out. He'd missed a few lines, and I'm like 400 points ahead of the dog on the first rabbit. And the guy's like, I'm headed back to West Virginia. So
good call.
They're like, that dog's crazy. You know what I mean? They're like, we ain't catching this dog. You know what I mean? We're not wasting any more mileage. And Dale looked at me and he says, congratulations, we're out of here. And I'm like, come on, keep competing. They're like, we got 75 points on the scorecard. You got 400, We ain't going to do that. We're not turning on the next rabbit. We're headed back. So we went up there. And, of course, when, after Mike Ridenhour said that to both of us, Blitz, he jumped a rabbit out of a cattail. He wasn't very far from us. He was only maybe 40 yards. And I remember him. He launched that rabbit in 30 yards. He was on a dead run and caught that rabbit on a sight chase.
Wow.
And I looked at Mike and I said, "Who can do it?"
Incredible. Now that's a heck of a story.
With intent to catch it, couldn't do it. Jason Mercer, they're taking pictures. But what was funny with Blitz, it wasn't beyond beagling, is he carried it back to me.
He's part retriever.
He didn't kill the rabbit.
Wow.
He handed me a live rabbit in his mouth, and I turned it loose, and it took off like a bullet. And I kept him on the lead because he was ready to chase it again. I mean, the weirdest thing, when you talk about a memory, and I'm sitting there looking, and people were taking pictures, and it's like, it was like the top is leaving a memory. Blitz never won the world championship. There's just so many things that can happen. The rules were you had to have plus points. I get out here and we just couldn't see the rabbit. I didn't get to advance. So many things happened. But I realized winning a world championship is not about winning the world championship. It's about impressing the people watching. Dogs that impress the people watch. When you do that, there's only one dog, and you got to have a little bit of luck on your side, too. There's only one dog got to go away that day happy. You know what I mean? One owner is going to be. And, the stars has got a line for you. But I realize there's a separate universe with Blitz, and I tell you he comes from a different planet where his stars lined up well, is because he never had to win the world championship for a guy like you to know him or heard about him.
right,
or know how he run, or tell a story about, because no matter when you went with that dog would leave you with a memory, whether it was Roy Swafford or, because he's like, man, he is unbelievable, and I'm like, he is. He really was. He was just, he was a competitive dog. He was different than Fly, because Fly was the same dog every time you put her on the ground. She won the NHBA runoff the year after Blitz, back-to-back years. I was pretty proud of both of them winning the HBA runoff, because that was a day I was able to get, because of my work schedule. I couldn't chase the hunts like other people. So that was my one day that I got all the world champions, the national champions, the state champions, all in one place at one time. And I could be there. You know what I mean? So I want to go up against you. So I won it back-to-back years with him, with some tough dogs out there. And Fly was the same dog every day. But what was unique about Blitz is I could turn him down with a performance-packed dog, and he would run right with him. I mean, just run with him. But if you reached out there on him a couple times, swinging and cutting and head high running, he's going out after you. And that's what I loved about him. When he went out after you, and he did it a little bit harder than you did. He'd go out and fight out there for you. But Fly would never. She was the same, she didn't have no slower gear, no faster than what she was. This is what she did. She won the first AKC trial she was in. I actually won the NHBA runoff. Took her from there down to an AKC trial. Ran, I thought it was going to be forever. I think it was 5 hours before they finally pulled back a winner.
Wow. And
Fly ended up winning her first hunt she was ever in an AKC in Cumberland. That was... it was just, they were just amazing dogs. They were just amazing dogs.
That sounds like some really, really cool memories. Those sound like some really good times. Well, listen, Dick, I want to start to wind down. I won't be good with your time.
I didn't get to win the Memorial that year because I couldn't show Blitz. That was Mom. Mom was like, you can't show him. So that was a memory with the Memorial was actually really great for me. And seeing a lot of great hounds. I mean, there's a lot of great people doing, Jeff, what he's doing down there, a good friend of yourself, and his breeding program is just really, there's some good bred dogs out there today, all over.
There sure are. And moms have a way of running things behind the scenes,
Yeah,
they do. That's terrific. Well, listen, I wanted to ask you one more thing as we kind of wrap up, and you were kind of alluding to it earlier, and you were talking about somebody challenging you to do things or to come up with something new, something kind of innovative for folks that maybe can't hunt anymore, or maybe it's bad weather, or maybe they're traveling and they're stuck somewhere. I don't know, but I kind of heard a little rumbling about you working on something, and this would be a good spot to put that if you want to talk about it.
What when I came back from California, I was in Texas for a little bit, came back. I remember Travis Weaver, a gentleman that asked me, he says, what can we, we need something. We got more members without dogs than we do with dogs, and, we need to build revenue. You got to have money to keep a club going. Period.
That's right.
And we got a lot of older guys, got a bunch. So it took me about 2 months, but, like I said, Jesus took the wheel and just put me at a table. I sat down with a deck of cards, and I figured out how to explain hunting, UKC, PKC, whatever. With a deck of cards and 4 dice. I was use just 4 aces as your hound. And I created this thing and got my brothers to come down. And, it's the first time I heard my brother Danny call an invisible dog a potlicker. And and I'm laughing, and we're all laughing. It was actually at Christmas at my mom's house. And I was home kind of trying to regroup my career, what I was going to do with my life. And when I started getting into that, I sent it off to a publisher, and and he called me back and said, hey, can you do more with it? And I started working on it a little bit there. So what we decided to do is we build a board game that explains everything about, what a check is, what a strike is, what a jump is. I'm not a board game designer, you know what I mean? And I'm not, but there's a lot of things I've done for the first time turned out well. So we started I started working on rules and then formulas, how, what people like in games. And, we're not, some people like to play cards. Some people like to do this. How do I reverse engineer the dopamine effect that people like that they play hearts or euchre or Hazy or bingo, and I'm just going to all these bingo halls. Yeah. I'm like in 30-06 mode again, you know what I mean? So I'm going around finding all this stuff, and I'm plugging, I feel like I had 1,000 pieces of white puzzle that I had to put together.
Right.
And when I come up with this, I told Trennis, I said, I just figured out how to hold a complete field trial with a deck of cards in my pocket. Then I started realizing my mom never knew how to read a scorecard in all these years. And we sat down with her, and she started watching it, and she's like, okay, now I understand what they do here. To the point my mom could probably judge a cast now if she had to. So we started working on it. So I've got, a lady here locally that, I showed it to her. I said, this is what I'm doing. And then she's like, hey, I'm in mental health, and I deal with people with disabilities. This is really good for what we want. I want to be a part of this. So that's where it started. We started working on that, working with the publisher, and we designed My Dog Has Skills. It's we haven't launched yet. We're still going through some there's a lot to board games, a lot more than I ever imagined. Actually, it took me a whole year to design this and to work in all the rules and all the scenarios that happen, hundreds and hundreds of plays. But that being off a whole year and my family coming in and stuff like that there, at times you're like, oh my God, am I doing the right thing in my career, in my life? It pulled me out of some dark places and bad thoughts, and it just sit down and just play. And to this day, I take it with me. I travel the country, I do inspections and MDT and stuff. And what I do is I put it in the hotel room, and it's like, I don't have dogs, I ain't got a pen. I'm traveling with my career. I throw this game down, my prototype, which has now went to another level. We're just getting some finals back in of the game pieces, but we're trying to create. We did it to raise funds. So I told Trennis, and I said, here's what we're going to do. You can sit down and everybody put $5 entry fee in, just like a hunt. Okay, if you can't afford $40, $30 or whatever, it's something for the spectators to do. It's something for all the people, the older hunters. It's a roadmap. It's a design roadmap that shows you, this is how you can score a line. But I made it where I can also incorporate, of course, My Dog Has Skills is what we come up with. It was actually going to be, we come up with my cousin that I got the dog of the slower and molasses off of. He says, this is a crypto hunt with bit hounds. You know what I mean? And I'm like, yeah. He said, this is the coolest thing I ever seen. And I'm like, and that's what I'm going to call it, crypto hunt with bit hounds. And then it was like the crypto and bit hounds and the federal government and all the stuff going on. They're like, okay, we can't use that now.
Maybe not.
I sit here and I got to thinking, it's like, when I lost to competitors like Mark Stump and my dogs got beat or whatever, I'm like, my dog put on a good show, but, he had skills. He did a good job. I always said that for years, and I was like, I couldn't believe it wasn't taken, so we went in and we got the Yahoo and the Google, and it went right through, and I was like, wow, it was like this was meant to be. So that's what we call it, My Dog Has Skills competition sporting dog event games, so it teaches you the bird dogs, the coon hounds, anything that has to do with the sporting dog. And then I just tweaked the mechanics of the game so I can put, this kennel club wants to support it, they can come in and say, we'd like to put our rules in your box, and then they can play with UKC rules. And you can sit down with your family and say, okay, here we go. The dogs move. Here's where a check's going to be scored. We have risk cards to take. We have just so many cool things going on in this thing. It's like, instead of sitting down with one game, you're sitting down with a lot of different style of game playing that is totally different. I was actually able to show a gentleman that has won 5 PKC World Championships at my dad's hunt here. And I went over it with him and showed him. And he's like, this is amazing. He says, this is, so we're trying to work out the logistics. I have a gentleman that has over 11 million YouTube viewers that wants to put it out on his channel. And he was fortunate enough, Mark Carter was absolutely fantastic, and with other people and the groups that I met, to give me the picture for what we need for our sales sheet. Yeah, it's just, I think
sounds really cool.
It helps to be able to, it has a way to where, you play the game as running dogs like we do in UKC or AKC, or my dog has skills rules that we have, and then we play this, and it shows you, and it's fun, it's good laughter, no way to cheat at it. It's really impossible to cheat at it. I don't want that. I wanted to kind of reverse engineer how we think games and go differently. And trust me, I've had a lot of people look at it like a deer in the headlights. They don't know which way to move, you know?
Right,
because
right.
it's just totally different. I don't do board games, you know what I mean? I don't very rarely play. It's not my area of expertise. But it's been a year with some very good people that help educate me on how do you pick an addiction. You know, we want games that people want to play over and over again. Well, I didn't even have to do that because, like you, the Beagle world has been doing it for years. Yeah. There's already an addiction. The addiction's built in. All I have to do is give you a platform to enjoy your addiction and be able, you know, I stayed with a gentleman, and he has been such a good help, and I've been helping him. His name's Dan Wolf. We traveled a lot of the country, and he is a veteran. He is a cancer survivor, a prostate cancer survivor. He's went through some dark times in his life and can't get around like he'd like to at times. And we've sat down and played this, and boy, it just takes us back with no dogs, you know, and old memories and old talk, camaraderie. And I knew it had healing power, you know, to make a man in that position be able to do it. So it's really, I'm really excited, you know, and I've really got to thank Trennis Weaver for saying we need something, because if it wouldn't have come out of his mouth, it wouldn't. Probably one of the greatest things I ever created in my life is something as simple as a board game. You know, and I've worked for Tesla. I've worked for FedEx. I've worked for Timken. I've worked for some great big Fortune 500 companies that's done some amazing stuff. This is just absolutely, it's relaxing, you know. And a 10-year-old girl at my dad's memorial hunt said, you know, I can see my dad doing this on a bad weather day.
Sure.
You know. Yeah. And it's just, for a 10-year-old girl to just say, I like it, when can I get it, you know? And I'm like, I'm working on it. I said, I'm just trying to figure out not to launch before we have, anything can happen. I've got every nightmare of, you know, all of a sudden you have 500,000 orders. You know, you send things go out to 11 million people, and orders say, you know, when are they going to get them?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's what I'm waiting on right now for somebody. No, don't tell me. You got to show me that how long that person's going to take. And we set on it a little bit longer until somebody proves to me you can get this many games out by this minute, you know, and it's going to be at their front porch. And until then, we just keep working on the perfection of what we have to do, and let the graphic designer keep on making this amazing board that he's making.
Well, Dick, I got to tell you,
jumped on board with us.
I'm really excited about seeing it. I can't wait till it's ready for distribution, and you know, I hear you about that. You know, like the worst thing you could do is market it and sell it and not be able to deliver. So it's all about delivering those things. But this is really cool. This is a great idea, and I love how you've not only, you know, created it for beagling, but other things too, coon hunting, bird dogging, whatever it happens to be. I think it's fantastic. That's a cool concept. I'm really glad that you're working on that, and can't wait to see it be launched.
Well, I'd like to say one thing about it. You know, one thing that happened when I was so blessed with a gentleman to give me a picture that I needed so much, and all I had to do was write a story for him. You know, a story he had. It was very good, and I'll send it to you so you can, if he wants, he might have it out on his YouTube channel. I don't know. Okay. But he has been such a great supporter of what I'm doing, giving me that picture and access to all his 2 years, 3 years of videos, whatever we need to help our marketing and strategy and stuff like that.
Oh, great.
Is to kind of give you a real view of what the game does and how it actually pertains in the field, you know. Because they're a little slower dogs, they're SPO dogs, so it's easier to explain to people, and they can understand what you like to run, and Jeff and them as, you know, wind splitters, you know.
Yeah.
I told the gentleman, I'm like, hey, you know, the publisher, I told him, I said, you know, how can he just wants 5 games, you know, for the pictures and stuff. And he's like, we can do better than that. He says, we have the capability, if we can work the details out, that for every game that's sold through his YouTube channel, he gets a percentage.
Sure.
I said, that's perfect.
Yeah.
because that could help offset some of this dog food cost that companies have to charge to stay viable.
Sure.
I said, I hope this game has the ability to. The game was built to help a lot of people. It wasn't. It ain't built to make anybody rich. I've shared it and split it up into people to work it so it happens. It actually comes together and it happens, and we see it through. And like I say, there's a lady that watches everything with the My Dog Has Skills stuff, yahoo.com and gmail.com, and she's putting her strategies together. And I told her, I said, I'm real busy at work now. I've spent a year, I've designed it, I've wrote the rules out, I've put every scenario that can happen in the Beagle field as a ARHA judge, a UKC judge, PKC, whatever I've ever judged. I've put it all together. And she's been a tough cookie. I mean, she is a professional board game player, and I mean, she knows every board game in the country, I think. But when I seen her look at me, and she's like, "This is really good." And when I got with gamers, and they're like, "Man, this is really, really good," I was really happy, because I felt like I give Trennis what he asked for a long time ago, and that's. And that guy right there, if he wouldn't have opened his mouth and said them two things, and and now I'm trying to figure out what I get my family for Christmas. And I will send you the rules to how to play. It's the board game's totally different, but it has a little, the card game leads you into the board game. And what I wanted to do with the board game is somebody that can afford, they can get a deck of cards and some dice from somebody.
Why, sure.
And they can play. I want everybody to play this game, whether they can buy it or they can't. So how to do it with a deck of cards. And then when the time comes that you can get one of them, great, But I didn't want to be any restrictions of anybody's financial issues, of being able to take some of the rules in our design and be able to set at the table with some friends and just to do it, just play it and keep score. So I will I'll see if I can get Ann to send you over a copy of the card game rules. So that's where it was. That was kind of where I sacrificed in the beginning, saying, I'm going to send this out and see if people like it. And we got a huge response, because you can basically take in an entry fee from people and spectators that are there with, like whether they be there. We didn't bring it out to Memorial because we have so much going on with the Memorial, and I was needed for my family. I could do it behind the scenes with some people, and that's what I did with vendors and some stronger players in the game that were doing stuff with the Discovery Channel and Hope, and stuff like that. And we had some very, very good positive conversations as how we're going to structure it going forward. And but like I said, with my career right now, what I'm doing and non-destructive testing and stuff like that, I've kind of I've got to let other people take care. I've built the ship. It's you guys get the passengers on it. It's all ready to go. And here's where I got to go over here for a little while and get my career, because I took a year off to do this.
Well, Dick, I
wouldn't be able to do it again. I'm glad. So it's going to work out good as I travel. I can write new rules and take input of what people want and implement it into the bird dog versions and the stuff I did to tweak them a little bit, because I want it perfected to where it can't be tore apart or criticized. And when you get somebody that's won 5 world championships, I know we're good, because there's where you're going to pick up it's going to fail, or now it'll just be put on the shelf, or I want it down, teaching younger kids how we look at things in the rules, being that roadmap that you pull out and try to figure out how to get to Columbus, Ohio. And, that older guy saying here, the Max Storms are saying right here is not a circle. We do not score. So, just use it as a roadmap. There's so much thought in here. I've never used any numbers. All the numbers I used in explaining any part of the rules are positive numbers that have good fortune, good wealth, good health, good marriage, good life. I didn't use any numbers that were, because like 4 in Asia means death. I didn't use anything like that. It's okay to play 4 players, but I didn't use anything, and it took a long time to get everything together perfectly. And it just fell in place gradually over many, many months of perfecting it to get it right where it needed to be. And the Memorial was a test with one gentleman that I needed to show it to and get his honest opinion, because if he said, "Oh no, it's not," then I would have probably went back to the drawing board and kept working on it again. But we've stopped it and said, "This is the rules. This is the way it is. We're not going to touch it." It's like the best chess game you've ever played. It's the strategy's there. You can pick him cards up, or you could do luck of the draw and use it as a fundraiser, or whatever you want to use it for, to generate money for your club. So somebody's coming in and paying some sort of entry fee as to not have a dog.
Well, Dick,
that's what it was all about.
I love the passion. I love the idea, the concept. I can't wait to see it and be able to play it myself. But I do want to be respectful of your time, and I really appreciate you joining me today. Is there anything that I should have asked you about that I didn't? Is there anything else that you'd like to talk about or pitch or promote that we hadn't covered so far?
People keep helping the memorial and supporting the Dick McVay Memorial.
And how can they do that?
Stuff going on with My Dog Has Skills to try to go out and recognize a lot of hunters that it takes a lot of years and a lot of networking, unbelievable. But try to create something that goes towards helping a lot of other great hunters that passed away. And My Dog Has Skills is working on something that we hope that can hold up to bringing all them other people and having that same kind of hunt like the memorial does. Just a lateral move that way. I'm hoping we can do that down the road with a lot of people's help when the time comes and the timing's right. But until that day comes, which is probably not too far out, but I think it, like you say, the memories and the hard work had been put into one big event to be able to get as many people and memories together. It's definitely a good move for what we want to do for everybody that wants to be a part of a long-lasting memorial. That's something we're going to do. We're mapping it out right now because of the resources, and how many years it takes to build something like this is to do it for a lot of great people. Because Dennis Kennedy just passed away, and both him and his wife, which was absolutely a tragedy. A great friend, left a memory that I cherish, and we stayed in contact for a lot of years. He definitely, that's a man we're going to miss dearly in this sport. This is something we're tweaking on there. And I told you asked me earlier about, my involvement with GPS, and, and that was like starting a club. Sometimes I got a lot more laughs when I said, I want to figure out a way to get GPS on dogs and stuff. And we had, we'll save that that's a long story. We'll save that for another day.
That's another episode.
Time, and we'll tap on, that journey of wanting to get GPS on dogs, and the doors I got slammed in my face, and the people that laughed at, like, who would ever want to put a GPS on a dog in a sporting dog event. We'll definitely tap on that at another day when I have more time. I would love to. Two things about it.
I'd love to, Dick. If you're game for it, I'd love to come back and have an episode at some point, because I've had some crazy thoughts myself about GPS and what role it could play in the future. I'd love to come back and flesh that out when we have more time. But
yeah, let's do that. I'd be glad to do that with you, and hopefully somebody listening out there on your channel, because like I say, my journey, I have. Like I say, I lost my wife in 2010 at Beagle Nationals, receiving a scholarship for her daughter. And my life got turned upside down after that day. A lot of things changed. My focus was to get my daughter through college. Deidre, she's married. She's doing great in Melbourne, Florida. I love her to death.
Great.
And her husband, he's in the military. He's a major in the military. Doing amazing things to help protect our country. But Deidre, she works in rescue and dealing with helping dogs and animals find new homes.
Oh, fantastic.
So she just, our keeping in touch gets hard at times.
Sure.
With our busy schedules. And she's older. And, I guess I remember my 30s, I didn't have much time.
I know. We all go through that, don't we?
I should have probably spent more time at mom and dad's, in my later years, but in my 30s. But it seems like that's the number when you forget you have parents and you need to remember you got them every once in a while. But no, I couldn't be prouder of her and what she's doing in the animal rescue and helping and all that stuff. And she's a director there doing something. And I mean, her whole career there is just, she moves with his military career. She's worked at the Nuclear Science and History Museum. Cool. She's, I told her, I said, be like your dad, wear many hats, because you don't know which one you're going to need to pull off and wear that day. And, don't put all your eggs in one basket, and just go with the flow. But right now in my life, my career here is an inspector, and my dog has skills to keep in my travels. I give a lot of thanks to Trennis, because this is really therapeutic for me in the evenings, winding down, to just put some dogs on the board and say, okay, we're going to see if Jeff Stacy beats me today. You know what I mean? And he usually does, but I think he gets lucky. But it's just the luck of the draw, how it all rolls out. But I've got this mission to beat him. And the last 2 trials I've had here at the hotel, he's got me, between him and Christy Bundy. They always seem to be one line ahead of me somehow or other, and I'm still trying to figure out how I beat somebody that's not even here.
I mean, Dick, I can't beat them in person. Maybe I should switch up and play the game too, because when I try to beat them in person, it's not working out for me either. Maybe my luck would be different with the roll of the dice.
I had better luck in person than I had in the board game. I was like, Jesus Christ. I was like, but it's just fun. It's good laughter. And
sure,
I just laugh, just the things that you can laugh by yourself. It's just like, you never know what's going to happen around the next turn. It's just trying to make a game that just is so real to what the stuff that happens out there. And people ask me, have you ever seen that? Or he was like, I see something new every time I play this, or I see many things I remember. And it's fun. It's really a blast. And but no, that's pretty much what I've got to say. And
okay, well,
I'm glad you give me a call. And
again, thank you.
I apologize to everybody that I haven't done one of these with. It's not perfect. It was not perfect. I didn't do it. I just didn't want to. Sure. I mean, I'd rather be cool in the shadows and burnt by the spotlight.
I hear you.
That's my philosophy. But it's just, I have so many other things going on, and I have family that pretty much know everything about me, and they do a better job explaining it.
Well, Dick, thank you. That makes this even more special. I really do appreciate you taking time to share more about your life and your history and your hounds and what you're up to now and what you're going to be up to in the future. I thank you, sir.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Buff in the Rough. And remember to like and subscribe if you want to be notified when we have new content available. And please send comments and suggestions to buffintherough@gmail.com. Join us next time to talk about using telemetry to track and train hounds. What options are out there for today's hunters?